Now we're going to work on the hamstring, which is the muscle that's behind the leg, and an action is to bend your knee. So to stretch it, you really want to keep the leg straight, the knee straight, and feeling it on the back of the leg, trying to touch your toes. Now, if you can't touch your toes in the beginning, you want to try to go as far as you can. If that's your mid shin level, that's great. You want to work your way up to be able to touch your toes without bending that knee. So we do not want to have that knee bent, keeping it as straight as possible, trying to touch your toes and bending the ankle back as much as you can, holding the stretch for about 15 seconds, doing 3 sets of 15, feeling it again in the back of the leg, holding that for 3 sets of 15 seconds, keeping the ankle bent, knee straight. Next, we're going to do seated butterfly stretch for the hips, getting some really good hip stretch and hip mobility. The idea is to try to push your knees down towards the floor, so you can use your elbows to push your knee down to the floor, trying to get them as flat as possible, feeling that stretch into the hip. And each stretch you want to hold about 15 seconds, doing that 3 times, so 3 sets of 15 is a good way to start. Again, pushing the elbows into the knees, trying to get them to almost touch the floor is a really good way to stretch and open up the hips that can get too tight from too much sitting, bicycling, anything you're doing that can tighten the hip flexors. Next, we're going to do hip internal rotation. That's turning the hip inward to try to get some mobility internally. So you really want to try to get that knee to touch the floor, holding for about 3 seconds every time it hits the floor, and then coming back to center. So doing 3 sets of 15 is a good way to start. And really just trying to feel the hip open up. That's what the goal is. Not trying to how many times you can touch the floor, but really trying to open and stretch that front internal rotators of the hip. So we really want to try to get some more mobility into the hip. Now we're going to switch sides and going over to the right side, same thing. Trying to get that hip internally rotated, getting the knee to touch the floor. Holding for about 3 seconds, doing 3 sets of 15, touching the floor. And going slow is a great way to work on mobility, because that's what we're really trying to do, is getting hip range of motion by internally rotating that hip. And just trying to open it up. Feeling more of that stretch into the hip from just too much. Next, we're going to work on the pigeon pose, which is stretching a couple different muscles, but you're going to feel it in the IT band, a muscle called the TFL, which is a little higher up, and you might actually feel in the piriformis as well. So you can really feel in a lot of different areas. Each stretch you want to hold for about 15 seconds. And the goal is to try to get your body above your knee, keeping the outside of the shin on the floor, keeping your body weight over the knee, holding each stretch for about 15 seconds to feeling the side of the leg, the IT band, piriformis, and the TFL muscle. Now we're going to do the piriformis stretch. This one I'm showing seated. So you want to try to lean forward by gently putting pressure onto the knee. And the piriformis muscle is on the back side, so it's mostly tight from a lot of sitting. So as you stretch, you're going to feel it into the back side. And you want to lean forward, slightly twisting the knee. You don't want to torque the hip too much, because that's going to really cause some injuries. So you're going to lean forward, gently pushing on the knee, putting more of your body weight over the knee. And you really want to feel it on the back side. All of these stretches, you're going to hold 15 seconds, doing that 3 times. Next, we're going to do hip opening stretches in the squatting position by using your elbows to push your knees apart as far as they can go to really try to help open up the hip. So squatting down as low as you can go, almost where your bottom is going to come to the floor, trying to keep your feet flat, and then using your elbows to really try to open up those hips. So elbows pushing the knees out and open for 15 seconds, And then doing that 3 sets of 15 is a good way to start. Now we're going to do a kneeling hip flexor stretch to really open up the hips, filling it into the front side that can become tight from too much sitting. So leaning forward, keeping the knee on the floor, holding for about 15 seconds, feeling the front of the hip stretch. And leaning forward can really increase the stretch. So keeping the knee on the floor, leaning, feeling the front of the hip is the goal. Holding for about 15 seconds, doing 3 sets. So 3 sets of 15 is the goal. Now we're going to do a stretch for the adductor muscles, which is the inner thigh. So to stretch it, you want to bring the leg out away from the body. So every stretch, you want to keep the ankle onto the floor, leaning down, feeling the stretch on the inner thigh, holding each for about 15 seconds, doing 3 sets of 15, feeling the stretch on the inner part of the thigh by keeping your ankle onto the floor and almost leaning down and away to feel that stretch. All right, next we're going to do a stretch for the rectus femoris, which is the middle of the thigh. So this stretch is a combination of the hip flexor stretch and the quad stretch, but the difference is you're going to grab the ankle to bend the knee and holding that for about 15 seconds. So we're working a different muscle, the middle of the thigh, called the rectus femoris. Now switching sides, bending the knee, grabbing the ankle, feeling it into the middle of the thigh is the rectus femoris. It's a really hard muscle to stretch, but really effective. And I'm utilizing the ball to help with balance and support so I don't fall. Holding each stretch for about 15 seconds, doing 3 sets of 15 is a good way to start holding that stretch. Now we're going to do a standing quad stretch, which is the muscle in the front of the thigh. You want to hold something that's supportive, strong, and stable, or you can add a balance component to it and work on different muscles. Now switching sides, again, holding something supportive, filling it into the front of the thigh is the goal for 15 seconds. Challenging yourself by adding more of a balance is a good way to go. 3 sets of 15 is the goal.